We reached Sunbury Lock at the 3:30. The river is sweetly pretty, just there before you come to the gates, and the backwater is charming, but don't attempt to row up it. I tried to do so once. I was sculling and asked the fellows who were steering if they thought it could be done, and they said, "Oh, yes, they thought so." If I pulled hard, we were just under the little footbridge that crosses it between two wires. When they said this, and I bent down over the sculls and set myself up and pulled. I pulled splendidly. I got well into a steady, rhythmical swing. I put my arms and my legs and my back into it. I set myself a good, quick, dashing stroke and worked in really grand style. My two friends said it was a pleasure to watch me. At the end of 5 minutes, I thought we ought to be pretty near the wire. And I looked up. We were under the bridge in exactly the same spot that we were where we began. And there were those two idiots, injuring themselves by violent laughing. I had been grinding away like mad to keep that boat stuck still under that bridge. I let other people pull up backwaters against strong streams now. We sculled up to the Walton, a rather large place for a riverside town. As with all riverside places, only the tiniest corner of it comes down to the water, so that from the boat you might fancy it was a village of some half-dozen houses, all told. Windsor and Abingdon are the only towns between London and Oxford that you can really see anything of from the stream. All the others hide round corners and merely peep at the river down on street. My thanks to them for being so considerate and leaving the river banks to woods and fields and waterworks. Even reading, though it does its best to spoil and sully and make hideous as much of the river as it can reach, is good-natured enough to keep its ugly face a good deal out of sight. Caesar, of course, had a little place at Walton, a camp or entrenchment, or something of that sort. Caesar was a regular upriver man. Also Queen Elizabeth, she was there too. You can never get away from that woman, go where you will. Cornwall and Broadshaw, not the guideman but the King Charles headman, likewise sojourned here. They must have been quite a pleasant little party altogether. There is an iron scold's brittle in Walton Church. They used these things in ancient days for curbing women's tongues. They have given up the attempt now. I suppose iron was getting scarcey, and nothing else would be strong enough. There are also toms of note in the church, and I was afraid I should never get Horace past him. But he didn't seem to think of them, and we went on. Above the bridge, the river winds tremendously. This makes it look picturesque, but it irritates you from a towing or sculling point of view and causes argument between the man who is pulling and the man who is steering. Montmorency set up a furious barking. I shrieked. Harris roared. George waved his hat and yelled back. The lockkeeper rushed out with a drag under the impression that somebody had fallen into the lock, and appeared annoyed at finding that no one had. George had rather a curious oilskin covered parcel in his hand. It was round and flat at one end, with a long straight handle sticking out of it. "What's that?" said Horace. "A frying pan?"